Hey, what's up, everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to Get Hit with the Truth. So today we are doing the fantasy heavyweight tournament rankings videos, as this will be on the number 2 heavyweight in this tournament, this interactive tournament, and that is former 2-time unified heavyweight champion Anthony Joshua of the United Kingdom. Now, before we get into that, if you could smash the like button, leave a comment, or subscribe to the channel, I really do appreciate any and all support that I can get as I continue to build my channel here. So, again, this fantasy interactive heavyweight tournament, I'm going to be posting, I'm breaking down, this is a breakdown video of Anthony Joshua in his career, and what he's, why he is where he is. And then, I'm going to do every heavyweight in this 32-man tournament. Talk about each heavyweight. That way you got a good background of them. And then we will get into the first round matchups and start posting those. That should come early next week. And that should be pretty fun. So, Anthony Joshua, why is he number 2? There might be some arguments there. I think people are clear about who number 1 is based on what he accomplished during the millennium in Vladimir Klitschko. But why is Anthony Joshua number 2? He had the 4th most victories in title fights. He had 9. The only 3 fighters ahead of him were, of course, Klitschko with 25, and then Vitaly Klitschko with 11, and Deontay Wilder with 10. But AJ, almost every one of his fights, his victories, except for one title fight win, was a unification title fight, which is worth more. And then you also have to factor in its strength of schedule. It's who you beat. When you win a unification bout, it's worth more. Who you beat, it's worth more. I did this point system much the way college football does their ranking system. It's not just how many wins, it's who you beat and how you beat them. That matters. So I did that, that's part of the point system. So Joshua finished about half of Klitschko's. He finished at 113.5 points to Klitschko's 228. Joshua went 9-3 in 2 reigns as heavyweight champion. Let's start looking at Joshua's resume, though. Joshua in 2015, he was an undefeated former Olympian that had hadn't really beaten anybody yet, outside of a couple of guys from the United Kingdom that you're supposed to beat, and the Matt Skeltons and the Michael Sprotts. Those are guys that banged around. They're kind of the more nowadays, Derek Chisora. They're the guys that you fight and you're supposed to beat. Well, in 2015, in December of 2015, he battled fellow undefeated Dillian Whyte. And they rocked each other, hurt each other, and then he ended up in dramatic fashion stopping Dillian Whyte, and that led to his first ever title shot. He was the number 1 ranked contender, or he became the number 1 ranked contender, and then the vacant title in, I believe it was February of that year, went on the line between American Charles Martin and Vyacheslav Glazkov. And that title went vacant because Tyson Fury gave up all the belts, because he didn't want to defend any of the titles following, he ended up having a lot of issues and stuff like that, actually, no, I take that back. Actually, the IBF title, now that I'm remembering it correctly, the IBF title, he was mandated to fight Glazkov, I think was the number 1 ranked contender, and Fury passed on that and allowed the IBF title to go vacant, while he held on to the other 2 belts, trying to set up a big showdown with Vladimir Klitschko, a rematch. So with that title going vacant, those 2 guys collided, and then Charles Martin ended up winning the fight on by a TKO when Glazkov got hurt early in the fight. I think it was only like the 3rd round. So in April, just a couple months later, Charles Martin would defend that title against Anthony Joshua. Most people were interested to see how Joshua was going to handle being in a legitimate title fight, even though Charles Martin wasn't considered to be a legitimate heavyweight champion. But be that as it may, AJ went out there and made quick work of Charles Martin, destroying him in just a couple rounds. I think it was the second round, and captured the vacant IBF title. And I was wrong about a stat earlier. AJ had a few title fights with just I think he had 3 total title fights with just 1 belt, and then the rest were unification title fights. In June of 2016, he would take on then undefeated Dominic Breazeale. This was seen as an interesting and intriguing matchup, even though AJ was the favorite. And he broke down Dominic Breazeale and stopped him in 7 rounds to retain his heavyweight title. Then in December of that year, he took on Eric Molina and disposed of Molina in only 3 rounds, dominating him, as Molina wasn't really considered to be a serious threat anyways. Then his crowning moment came in April of 2017 when he signed on and would fight at Wembley Stadium against Vladimir Klitschko, the former 2-time heavyweight champion, 9.5-year running champion. He was a 1.5 years removed from losing the unified heavyweight title to Tyson Fury in a major upset. He tried to get Fury back in the ring for a rematch. Fury ended up giving up his belts due to his substance abuse issues and mental issues. And the vacant WBA heavyweight title was also on the line in this fight with Klitschko. And what a war. In one of the best heavyweight fights of the millennium by, across the board. AJ, it was kind of a back and forth. Neither guy seemed at first to go for it. It was a good action, but it wasn't a straight up war yet. And then AJ would hurt and put Vladimir Klitschko down, I believe around round 5 or 6. Then the following round, Klitschko responded and put AJ down and then took control of the fight. And Klitschko, heading into the championship rounds, looked like he was going to either stop AJ or secure a victory. And then AJ landed a monster uppercut in the 11th round that hurt Klitschko badly. And then he jumped on him and stopped Vladimir Klitschko in the 11th round and became the unified heavyweight champion of the world, and really cemented his place as the heavyweight champion with that win. After that, in October of 2017, he would take on Carlos Takam, a serious contender. Stopped him kind of uneventfully in 10 rounds to retain his 2 belts. Then he returned in March of 2018 to take on Joseph Parker, who was the undefeated WBO heavyweight champion. This is a unification bout right here. And AJ went out there and kind of did a workman-like unanimous decision win. Wasn't pretty, but he seemingly just did a little bit more, and controlled the tempo. Ugly fight, but he got the victory and became the unified, or added another belt, and it was now the 3-belt unified heavyweight world champion. Later on that year, he made a mandatory defense against Alexander Povetkin, who had only lost to Klitschko to that point by a decision. And Joshua went out there and broke down Alexander Povetkin and impressively stopped him in 7 rounds to retain his unified heavyweight crown. So heading into 2019, AJ was rolling. He signed on for a fight against undefeated American Jarrell Big Baby Miller, but Miller had to pull out after failing 2 drug tests. That led to him picking Andy Ruiz Jr. on about 5 weeks' notice. Andy Ruiz looked like a guy he should just roll over, and early on it looked like he was going to roll over Andy Ruiz when he put Ruiz down early in the fight. But Ruiz weathered that storm, put AJ down in the 4th round, and AJ just never seemed to get himself back. And when he tried, Ruiz sprung on him again and shockingly stopped Anthony Joshua in the 7th round of that fight to capture the unified heavyweight title. It was a major upset, probably the biggest since Rahman had upset Lennox Lewis back in 2001. So nobody could believe what happened. But AJ got an automatic rematch, and in December they went to Saudi Arabia for the rematch, and AJ systematically boxed and outgunned Andy Ruiz in the rematch to extract his revenge and regain the unified heavyweight title and move on from there. Then once he wouldn't fight for a year because of the pandemic Finally, in December of 2020, he returned to make a mandatory defense of his 3 belts against Kubrat Pulev, who had only lost to that point to Vladimir Klitschko. AJ broke down Pulev, you know, and ended up knocking him out in 10 rounds to retain his unified title. Then, about 9 months later, in September of 2021, he would take on the undefeated, former undisputed cruiserweight champion of the world, Alexander Usyk. Big time matchup right here, but most people felt AJ was too big and strong for Usyk, and he was going to win for sure, myself included. And Usyk went in there and completely broke down AJ, almost stopped him, and scored a major upset to become the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. I mean, the unified heavyweight champion of the world. The two would rematch about 11 months later, as AJ had an automatic rematch clause in the contract. AJ would do better with a new trainer in this fight, but Usyk would still be just a little bit better than AJ, as he outworked them to a unanimous decision, or split decision in this one, and kept the title away from AJ. So AJ since then has not been in any title fights, but that was 12 consecutive world title fights in a row for Anthony Joshua, going 9-3. He impressively was the unified heavyweight champion in both reigns, and did very well in those victories. Of course, his key victory, the biggest win of his career, was the Vladimir Klitschko knockout. That's another reason why he's number 2. He has a knockout victory over the number 1 fighter in Vladimir Klitschko. And again, the unification wins. He had some key unification victories. Not to go, you know, underrated, because he usually is, but his knockout of Alexander Povetkin was very impressive as well. Anthony Joshua, the 6'6" heavyweight, very good. Since then, you know, he's got, he's 4-0. Most recently, he destroyed Francis Ngannou in 2 rounds. And he's considered to be the number 3 heavyweight in the world right now. And is in line, if he stays victorious, for a huge showdown with Filip Hrgović, and then eventually the winner of Fury and Usyk. So he's still banging around. Anthony Joshua, as the number 2 seed, I think is fair, and he was definitely a very good heavyweight. You know, and we still might have not seen the best of AJ though in there. We'll see as things come forward. But the upset to Andy Ruiz, he avenged. Alexander Usyk has shown you how good that fucker really is. So the 2 losses to Usyk, the fact that he did better in the rematch, I mean, speaks to Anthony Joshua's talent, but and how bad he wants it, you know. So really, I don't hold too much against AJ for the 3 losses on his resume, because he avenged one of them, and the other 2 were to the same guy, a truly special fighter, and Alexander Usyk. So AJ is the number 2 heavyweight going into this fantasy boxing tournament, interactive tournament. We'll see who his first round matchup will be against. I hope you tune in and vote. That's it. That's what I got. That's my number 2 heavyweight for my fantasy, my True Boxing Fantasy Heavyweight Interactive Tournament. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, smash the like button, leave a comment, or subscribe to the channel. I appreciate any and all support. This is True Boxing. You've been hit with the truth.